Welcome to Scaling for Success. We are here talking about operations, and I'm super excited to be talking to Katrina Scarlett, who is a customer experience strategist, which when it comes to operations, we work so well with. We were just talking off screen, and we were talking about the 5 pillars, the culture and team, and we were talking about service, we were talking about offer stack, and operations and processes and customer journey, and how important from an operations standpoint and a customer journey and experience standpoint some of these different pieces are and how they all fit together. So Katrina, welcome. Why don't you give us a couple of little sentences about what it is you do before we hop into the questions?
Yeah, so hopefully really concise here. I work with authors and coaches to help them increase and expand on their customer experience efforts so that they are improving client retention, client satisfaction, improving their monetization efforts, and then all in contrast with that, helping to increase their profit margins, expand their revenue and growth, and then also expand the impact they're having in the world.
All that is extremely important. So thank you. And I know you and I have worked together a little bit, and so I love that you're graciously giving us some time today. Let's talk about strategies for growth. What do you think the top 2 or 3 might be that really work for your audience?
So I think honestly, the first one is it's listening to comprehend. So I talk about this quite a lot in the sense that a lot of business owners say they listen to their customers, but listening and comprehension are 2 very different things, right? Listening is just like, okay, I'm taking in what you're saying. Comprehension is when we're actually digesting what you're saying and we're considering how we can use that information to improve or make changes, right? So actually like having a conversation with somebody and taking in the information and comprehending what it can mean to us and how it can help us make improvements, scale, change, adjust, whatever it might be. And right now, I see a lot of businesses doing a great thing. Lots of customer feedback forms, lots of surveys. Like I probably get asked like 10 times a week to complete a survey. There are very few businesses, especially when we talk about like the online space and the smaller business, like coaches, consultants, strategists, authors, etc., that actually take the time to implement and utilize the information that they're given. So they take in the information, they read it, but comprehension is the digesting to then want to take action. So that would be probably that would probably be the first one. The second one is I like to recommend that people are always, whenever they're needing to make a decision in their business, so whether it's about a new product they're creating, a new system they're implementing, a change to policies, maybe whatnot, I always recommend that they ask the question, how does this decision support the business and our customers?
Say that again. How does this decision
support the business and our customers?
I love it.
Because a lot of times we make decisions based solely on the business. And then we make that decision and then we counteract whatever we need to then change things to help the customer, right? So maybe we pick a new software we're going to use. It's less expensive than what we previously used. That's the decision we made. We made the decision based on the fact that it's more cost effective. And then we have to reactively adjust for now how that changes things for the customer, right? Maybe now it means it's 4 or 5 extra steps for them to book a call with us, whereas before it was only 2 steps, right? So now we need to change how we communicate and how we navigate them to take that action, right? But now we're making it more friction-based for the customer because now we've introduced more steps. So if we're making decisions that are in support of both the business and the customer, then we're ideally making decisions that are only going to help elevate or continue to offer the same great customer experience and service we already offer versus making decisions at the detriment of the customer.
Sounds like there might be a story around that one.
Oh my gosh, there's probably lots of stories. Honestly, I feel like I could probably pull out a story here, but I think it's more in what I've noticed in interactions I've had with clients I've worked with. The first decision when they need to make a change it's usually around revenue. It's usually bottom line based. And when a bottom line decision needs to happen, right? Maybe expenses are too high right now, profit is low. They immediately go for things that are focused on the business, right? Versus considering the customer. And so I did have a client once who completely changed their entire tech stack because they felt they were invested in all of the more expensive things and they could get away with, instead of ActiveCampaign, a free MailChimp account. Instead of using, I think they were using Samcart for checkouts. Instead of using Samcart, they could just send checkout pages from Stripe and avoid that cost, et cetera, et cetera. And they blew up their business by making all of these decisions. Customers left like at a rapid pace because it was now not easy to do business with them. And they couldn't see it for themselves because they thought that they were making great changes, but what they were only doing was making great changes to their bottom line, right? And instead, they were actually making their business more difficult to work with. And as we talked about in the previous video, one of the biggest desires of customers is the convenience and ease of which it is to do business with you. So
that less friction point is so important.
So important. So important. So I think that to me is probably like, so that would be number 2. And then number 3, and this kind of encompasses, I think, a few things, is to regularly, not just once in a blue moon, regularly do quality assurance tests on your own business processes and procedures. So like we'll do this on behalf of our clients. I'll come in and I'll act essentially. So this is calling on my old hospitality resort and hotel background. I'll come in and be a secret shopper for you. I'll come in and I will purchase your products. I will go through your call booking process as if I am a client. So like your team doesn't even know that I'm helping you. I'll come in and I'll see where all the barriers are, where all the friction is, or hopefully where all of the great successes are, right? And I'll go through all those steps with an objective eye, because sometimes, like if the business owner is the same one going through and, rereading emails and whatever, they're too close to it. They don't necessarily see things that are evident, but there's a big mindset in the online space of set it and forget it, which like gives me hives when I hear that term, because there's no such thing as set it and forget it. Like, yes, you might be able to set up a process or a system for, say, ideally longevity, but you still need to review it every 6 months, even every 3 months, maybe, especially when we're talking about customer-centric processes or customer specific processes and procedures. So maybe that's a nurture sequence for your emails. Maybe it's, the automated reminders after they book a call with you. You still have to review those to A, make sure they still work, and to B, or two, A, B, make sure that they're still on brand.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times,
and as the business grows and changes, like things shift. Tech stack shift. Like I think it's worth repeating what you just said. You've got to do it on a regular basis. Regular can be different for different processes, but you do need to double check. Does the link work? Is it broken? Is it branded right? Have you evolved? Is it now not, it's not one person because you've evolved and that customer service or that sales department is 1 or 2 people. Now it's 10. And now you have a different system, but they all go out with the first person's name. And so that doesn't work. And so you're creating confusion. You're creating friction points. Sorry, I could go off on a tangent on that one.
No, and so I know you like the story, so I'm going to tell one really quickly. I helped a client a little while ago who, sorry, I have a frog in my throat all of a sudden. And I went through and was auditing a bunch of things for them. And so I went through and I was trying to book a call. And they had probably, I think, 5 or 6 areas that could get you to booking a call. And every single one of them, I'd hit dead links. And I'm like, how long has it been since these links aren't working? And they're like, they should all be working. I'm like, well, when was the last call you had booked? They had a call booked for like 4 months, but nobody had noticed because they changed from Calendly to Acuity, but nobody went and updated the booking links on all of those points of call to action. So for what we could figure, it had been probably about 3-4 months since that change had been implemented, where like the Calendly stuff actually stopped working and they fully switched over to Acuity, but nobody in the team went through the process of updating all those different emails and their nurture sequences, those different web pages, etc. So it was even on like the bottom of some of the PDF assets that they had sent out as an opt-in, right? So then you talk about using something like, okay, well, let's use a pretty link. So it's, yourbusiness.com, book a call. So it doesn't matter if you change a system here or there, you can just redirect a link if you're putting it out there for a place of longevity, right?
Yeah.
So like that's a perfect example of, if they didn't go ahead and either audit themselves or have somebody like me go through and audit that, it would have continued to be that way.
Yikes. Business
And
killers.
yeah. I was saying, operation first, that probably kills you.
It really does. It really does. But this does lead into really my next question for you, which is, what are the top 2 most common challenges then that you see? Is it things like people had no idea this link, that link wasn't working?
Yeah. So I think the first one I'm going to say is that they assume that what used to work is continuing to work or will continue to work. And I actually mean that in a pretty broad scope, in the sense that systems and processes that you have in place may be broken and you don't know it because you're not auditing things. The other is that as you begin to scale in your business, some processes and systems and tools that you've had in place in past may no longer fit the need of what you have as you scale and grow, right? So we can talk about things like your checkout process, right? If you have multiple products now that you're selling, well, it may not make sense to use something like Thrivecart where everything's an individual checkout experience. Maybe it makes sense to switch to something like Shopify where you can have a storefront and everything becomes more easily visible and people can buy multiple things at once versus one thing at a time, right? Or if you're, say, maybe growing like a mastermind program or, a group program, and you have previously offered it for a max of 10 and now you're shifting to a max of 50, well, you're going to have way more service requests. You're going to have way more emails coming in. So now maybe you need somebody to step into the role as more of like a group concierge, so that there's somebody dedicated to servicing those 50 people, because servicing 50 people in a group environment is very different than servicing 10 people in a group environment, right? So we don't allow our systems and our processes to scale with us. We just assume that what's been working will continue to work. So it's kind of like 2 facets to that one. The other thing I see happening a lot that really doesn't sit well with me is businesses doing what they see everybody else doing or what everybody else is telling them to do, rather than staying authentic to themselves and their audience and the needs of their customers, right? So you've got a lot of people
object syndrome.
Yeah.
I saw it. I have to do it.
Yes, exactly. Or, there's a lot of influencers out there who are talking about certain processes and certain approaches to marketing and selling, and they may work really well for this person over here, but they may not work well for you, right? Like I have one client who does an amazing job, not the right word, but is having amazing success with some sales tactics that I would never do in my business, because they're just not aligned with my authenticity, where my customers are at, and what feels good to my moral approach, right? Like my own moral compass. So, but if I adopted that flow and that process that he goes through for his sales and marketing, simply because I see it working for him, it could have a completely opposite effect for my business, because our businesses are not the same. And there's so many people out there giving canned advice, especially around sales and marketing, thinking that this company over here who made $1 million in their first 6 months, that all the strategies and tactics that they implemented are going to work for the same business over here. And it's so not true. So you see a lot of people investing heavily in these certain strategies and then being like, well, why doesn't it work? Because it's not congruent and authentic to you and your business and your customers.
That piece is really important. And even if we go beyond the authenticity piece, the thing that always bugs me about some of this, whether it's operations gurus or marketing gurus or whatever it is that they put out their book, their plan, their SOP, their whatever. But it only works with the following assumptions.
Right.
The assumptions are rarely talked about though. And you're like, well, how come that doesn't work? Well, how come they got this number? And the other thing I don't love is those vanity metrics. right? I made $1 million. Yeah, but you didn't tell them it took you 2 million to make the million.
Right.
So it really didn't. Where's
Right.
the rest of the story behind what you're actually telling me? And being authentic to who you are is really important. And so I'm gonna stop going off on my soapbox because I could get up there for hours.
Together we could be there for a day.
We could. Katrina, this was great. Thank you so much. I know this is the second in our videos. Cannot wait to talk about measuring, speaking about KPIs, measuring the customer experience in our next conversation, our next video.
I'm
See you
excited.
soon.